Hey friends, Sean from Draft Therapy here, and you are watching or listening to the Bearded Hops podcast. Don't forget to sniff.
Hey, don't forget to pass me a beer.
Look, at least promise me you won't drink. Alcohol always leads to trouble.
Hey, who wants to play Drink the Beer?
Right here.
You win.
All right, what do I win?
Another beer.
Just have a cup of coffee.
Bear it is.
Coffee?
Beer.
I'd kill for a beer.
Cheap beer and a sympathetic ear. Step right up.
Well, that is up, everybody. How you doing? It's Adam here with the Bearded Hops podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. And, of course, I'm here with the other two lovely gentlemen. See, I was nice this time. Chad, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Adam, how are you?
Okie dokie, Jake.
I don't think you really meant it, though, when you said
All right, and Chad, you want to go ahead and introduce our guest? We're just going to ignore him.
Oh, that feels normal.
Yeah, there you go. Better?
All right, well, tonight we are going to talk with the beer babe, Carla Jean Lauter. Did I get the last name right?
Lauter, rhymes with water. Doesn't
Lauter, okay. Welcome to the show, Carla.
Louder.
Or would you rather be called babe?
No, I'll answer to either.
Well, welcome to the show. Carla is out in Portland, Maine.
Oh,
Yep.
nice.
Way out east.
Yep. Our leaves are starting to change color. It's fall.
I think after this week, ours might too, because it's getting chilly. So
Yeah, it's chilly here, too, in Wisconsin.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah, but I like that 50 weather
I do
at
too.
night.
Oh, yeah. No, I haven't
I
had
also had my
around.
first pumpkin spice latte today, so that's.
Oh, boy.
Oh, geez.
Pumpkin slice latte.
Pumpkin.
Just watch John Oliver.
Get
I'm
the pumpkin beer.
unapologetic about my love for that. I don't know. It's just
The pumpkin coffees aren't bad. I've yet to find a pumpkin beer I'm enamored with.
Well,
Yeah.
Have you had any that are stout based? Because the dark ones are actually really good. There's a brewery up here called Cape Ann in Massachusetts that makes an imperial stout pumpkin beer, and it's kind of fantastic because it gets all of its molasses notes instead of it just being like, "Hey, let's have some cinnamon and put it on top of a or whatever."
that's what I need, because I never really liked the pumpkin beers that I've had in the past, but I don't think I've had like an imperial stout.
I don't think I have either.
I want like a barrel-aged,
You want like a 22 ABV.
Give me like a 12% at least. At least double digits. Yeah.
Oh, jeez. All right, Chad, you did the introduction, but you still need to do your part of the show. That you
Yeah, I want to know what everybody's drinking, of course. So I'll start off. I've got a Titletown Bent Tuba. This is an Oktoberfest beer. It's really, really good. It's one of my favorite Oktoberfest beers. I'm not huge on Marzans in general, but they do a really good one. So I'm starting with a Bent Tuba from Titletown in Green Bay.
I haven't gotten Oktoberfest yet. Jake?
Well, we are drinking the same thing, Adam. Would you like
we
to?
Look at that twinsies.
We have that's bright Fluxed in Paradise. This is a joint session between Lagunitas and Shorts Brew.
There it is.
So it is
Shorts.
a double dry hopped IPA, though I would say that this is, now my palate has probably been warped over all the beer I've consumed, but this does not come off as like,
No.
It's not a West Coasty, it's not a hoppy tasting.
It's kind of a low ABV for you, sir.
It is, but I thought it was some good flavor, and I only saw one, and whenever I see only one of something,
8.5, which is really low for Jake.
that's when I grab something. But it's more kind of got a fruitiness to it, I would say.
Not bad at all.
Not
Not bad. Carla, what you got?
So I have a local here. It's Brewery Extrava, and it's a Belgian IPA. So this is a new brew to us. It's probably about 2 months old now. Yeah, it opened a little after the 4th of July, and they're doing mostly Belgian-inspired stuff, and they plunked themselves right in the neighborhood with a whole bunch of like really hop-forward breweries, the hype haze, breweries out here. So it's kind of refreshing to be able to go from hazy, hop to go over and get some Belgian beer and some Belgian-inspired beer. And this one, being a Belgian IPA, it is, I would say, definitely more on the Belgian side than the hop side, but they are using whole leaf hops in there, which is pretty interesting. And it's unique. There aren't really a lot of beers in Maine that taste like this, so I enjoy it.
Do you think they purposely tried to position themselves as something sort of different than what's in the craft beer scene there? Yeah.
Now, what's funny is that when they first went to open, they said, "We're not going to make an IPA," and then of course everybody was like, "You have to make an IPA.
You have to make an IPA.
Yeah,
Nobody will drink it.
So they compromised, but they made a very not IPA-y IPA. So it's a
You craft beer, but you don't have an IPA?
right. Yeah.
Shalonda, Afro Beer Chick says,
Afro
hey.
Beer Chick. I got the shirt on.
Yep,
Yay!
Chad-
Oh, I should have worn it.
Yeah.
And she says it's your turn in the hot seat, so there we go.
So, Carla, tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, what do you do for a living? And then how did you get into beer?
Sure.
Craft beer.
Yeah, so my day job has nothing to do with beer, other than the fact that the people that I work with do like to drink it. I work for a company that does basically tech conferences. So I write digital content, and I'm kind of an editor for an online tech publication. So I'm writing about the 3D scanning, laser scanning, and LiDAR industry. So it's anything from autonomous vehicles to scanning like historical, archaeological sites to preserve them and things like that. So very, very cool stuff, but I'm writing all the time and running around and kind of, managing a bunch of freelancers. But I just started that job a couple months ago, and I love it. It's just got a really geeking out about all the new tech. But I started writing about beer in 2007. So I've been kind of around the block a few times. I used to be on Ning, if anybody remembers Ning.
Oh man, I don't even remember that.
But I have. It was kind of like a baby social network for bloggers, where you could like link up with other bloggers and guest post on each other's thing. It was very funny. But I've been, so I've been writing about craft beer. I started writing about kind of everything in craft beer. And then I realized that at that period of time, there weren't a ton of people writing about what was going on in the East Coast. Everything was Colorado, California, kind of centric, or, Portland, Oregon. So I started to kind of slowly zoom in on what was happening in New England. And at one time, you could actually follow everything that was going on in New England pretty readily. And now I have zoomed in much farther, and I am essentially covering the main beer scene, and not even able to catch up with that. So I now write a every other week column for Maine's largest newspaper, the Portland Press Herald. But on and off, I basically have been writing on and off, either in my blog or for publication or freelance for, I guess that's 12 years. So I'm an old vet.
Now, what got you to start writing about craft beer?
So when I had graduated college and I got my first job, and I wasn't making any money. So I moved in with a whole bunch of people that I had known from college, like post-college. So there were 6 of us living in one house, and, we all had our own rooms, and there was like common space. And almost right next door, there was a little cute like craft beer store. It was like kind of like a 7-Eleven, but it just was filled with craft beer. And it was essentially anything that was distributed in the state of New Hampshire in craft. This little shop had it. So I would go after work, and I would get like a 6-pack of something I'd never heard of. I'd bring it home. We'd all have one, and we kind of like talk about it. And after doing that for a year of living together, we kind of had fun, tasting weird things and kind of figuring out what all this stuff meant. And it was, really before there were a lot of places that you could go to find that information. So we were just kind of trying to, Google what we could and, just talk about it. And after the year, we realized that nobody kept track. Nobody wrote down what we had. We didn't really have like any kind of record of the, couple hundred beers that we had probably tried.
You mean you didn't have Untapped to use and log everything?
No.
No one's like, let's just build an app.
Untapped was not even a twinkle in Greg Avila's eye by the time that was going on. So the way that my husband now likes to say it is that so we decided, okay, maybe we should write this stuff down. And he got a notebook, and I got a blog. So I love writing. I've always loved to write. So it seemed natural to me to just, hey, let me tell people about it. And then it just kind of grew from there. And like I said, because there weren't a lot of people that were talking about New England, I kind of got attention early that I don't think I would have otherwise if I had been, kind of in those hot scenes, where everybody was, but just kept at it and moved on really from beer reviewing to, more trend pieces and style and education and that type of thing.
Man, that sounds a lot like our podcast.
Yeah.
Chad and I were just drinking beer, and we're just sitting here talking, like, why don't we do a podcast and just do what we're doing here on the porch? So that's what we did. So
Well, plus it also started out as kind of like rating beers.
That's what we started out doing.
Yeah, and
it's
then over
totally
time, we're
all
like,
about
rating,
reviewing and rating. Yeah.
like, what are we doing? That doesn't even matter. Like, it doesn't even necessarily mean anything to anybody, especially if they can't get this beer.
Right.
So yeah, over time it's just evolved into talking about
interviewing people.
Yeah, talking to other people, talking about beer in general, talking about trends. I mean, yeah, exactly. We sort of with that same evolution.
Yep. Rod says hi. Rod is here. Hello, Rod.
What up,
How
Rod?
you doing?
And
All about rating, reviewing, and rating. Shalonda wants to be like you, Carla. So that's how it goes.
Right.
So yeah,
Somebody's got is there speakers on?
people.
Not me.
All right, there we go.
Why was
Carla,
that-
it's
Sorry, that may have been me. I'm not sure.
no
never
worries.
know.
We're just hearing an echo there. So
Yeah.
But it's awesome that you're in New England. I actually have family out there. My aunt and uncle live in just outside of Sanford.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
I think it's Lyman is where they're at.
Oh,
But
yeah, Funky Bow. There's a brewery right in Lyman. That's the only reason that people know where Lyman is now. There's a brewery out there called Funky Bow, and it's crazy. It's like
Awesome.
on a farm, but not like a idyllic, like you want to get married there, like a hipster farm. It's like a farm, and the guys who own it are like loud and weird, and their dogs run all over the place, and it's just become this place. They have like bluegrass music like all summer long, like out there, and it's a totally different crowd that hangs out there than hang out in the kind of relatively more, I guess gentrified, kind of Portland type things. But it's only about a half an hour outside of Portland if you go kind of diagonal through the state. So it's, but it's kind of a fun environment over there.
Yeah, I actually am trying to arrange a road trip out there. My dad and I it's my dad's brother, and
Cool.
we'd like to get out there and visit him. And he's got a couple things for me to bring back here. But so that's awesome to hear that there's a really cool brewery there to visit. So now I want to go even more.
Yeah, you should definitely check that out. Especially
Awesome.
at night, they have live music. It's a fun group of people.
Ah, that's very cool.
Yeah.
No question, Chad? You're not going to ask a question or anything? You're just going to tell us about your
I
family?
needed a drink. I needed a
Maine?
drink. I needed a drink. Sorry.
Ridiculous. So ridiculous. So you
This
started
is non-scripted,
drinking.
so
It's never scripted. We don't even know what we're doing. So you started drinking craft beer, needed a way to kind of track it.
Yeah.
And plus you like writing. So you started a blog.
Yep.
And that has led you now to being a beer journalist.
Yeah, really. Yeah. I started getting paid to write about beer. Yeah, in about 2012, took an article or two in, like New Hampshire Podunk magazine or whatever. And then I was like, oh, wait, somebody might pay me to do this. That's kind of fun. So I got kind of into that. But I've worked kind of on and off for a couple of years for various Portland publications. I was originally at Maine Today, which is a subsidiary, of the Press Herald. Then I went to an alt monthly publication that was kind of like our edgy, cool publication. And then I switched when they needed a beer columnist. There was an existing beer columnist for the Real paper, and he decided to pursue other opportunities. So they hit me up and they said, "Hey, would you be our beer columnist?" And I said, "Sure." And then actually I turned in my first column, and then they were like, "So where are the pictures?" And I'm like, "Wait. You want me to do it?" So I went out and bought a camera, and I take halfway decent pictures now. But but I'm not a photographer by any means. So I was like, "Oh yeah, a column, like a skinny." No, that's not how they do layout anymore. No. So I do turn in pictures of all my stuff. But I just thought it was funny because they were like, "So and the pictures?" Like, oh,
give me a second. Go grab a beer from the fridge. Click. There you go.
Sending now.
Although I now have kind of a stock photo library for myself. Like I take pictures of breweries wherever I am. So if I write an article about Tobago, I'll just throw a picture of Tobago Brewing in there, because that's saved me a lot of time if I have to specifically go out and take a picture of a tasting room every single time or whatever it is. But if I'm writing about a specific beer, I will take photos of the cans and whatever. But yeah,
smart, very smart.
Since you are a beer writer, are you Cicerone certified in any way, or okay?
Nope.
I don't think that's necessarily a requirement at all, but
couple reasons. One is that I got away from beer rating and or judging kind of early, and I do have, I've gone through some classes. I've gone through the off flavor, classes and whatever, but I never really pursued the BJCP or the Cicerone because I didn't really see a need to have the judging and the kind of really, really, really specific knowledge there. Because what I'm trying to do more is to invite people into craft beer and kind of give them a little bit of an education rather than be like the end all be all authority on beer itself. So I've thought about it, but when I was kind of trying to figure out what the benefit would be to me, I didn't really see it. Not to say that I wouldn't do it in the future, but at this point, I don't really need it for what I'm writing about, because I'm really kind of talking about what people are trying to do, just generally with beer. What are these styles about, where they come from. And why are people doing things like blueberry milkshake IPAs, and I don't know if getting trained in those would actually help me explain that any more than the brewers themselves would.
That's technically not a style. The blueberry milkshake.
It will be eventually
Well,
when they wrote it in.
The other thing is that when's the last time you had a beer that's brewed to style, right? Like
Exactly.
that's the other thing is that we really got away from that. I want to build the perfect Kolsch, the perfect brown ale, the perfect whatever. And some people do that and they do it very well. But more people are just blurring the lines of all of those boundaries all the time.
Right, because then somebody comes in and looks at their menu and be like, what do you want me to do? Just order a Kolsch? Like,
what's a Kolsch?
Where's your, mango, chili pepper,
right,
tamale,
chocolate?
They're like, that was plain and boring. There's a really great. Somebody found I think it was a Yelp review of Allagash Brewing Company. Now, Allagash Brewing Company, if people listening don't know, is like the best known like American Belgian style brewery in the U.S. I mean, save right. So they had this whole thing about how like, their beer was bland and it was weird, and they don't even have an IPA. And how can you get away with not having an IPA?
Like, don't have an IPA.
What? Allagash. But what's funny is that we passed, as beer geeks in Maine, passed it around to each other, and we said, okay, guess what brewery this is written about? And we all kind of dared each other to figure it out. And it was very funny. But, yeah.
Yeah, Shalonda just brought up a good point in that. If you were to put on the screen there, definitely, I agree with that.
Yeah. Beers are definitely known by flavors and styles, not exactly. And that's, and that's a great transition into talking about Fresh Fest. So I met Shalonda at Fresh Fest a couple weekends ago. Awesome, amazing. But just put a teeny point on it, every beer that I had there had such amazing flavor and flavors that were inspired by things that, I would never, encounter in, depending on where the culture is. So like in New England, we don't have certain ingredients. In the South, they have ingredients. Like it's just everything was inspired, but all of this wonderful culinary and historical flavors that it was awesome. I was just blown away by the absolute creativity of everything. And that's the thing, is that I wasn't standing there going, wow, this is the best plain Kolsch I've ever had. And not to knock Kolsch's, but it's the one that kind of everybody puts up as a great beer. I love a good Kolsch. But when people are telling me the story of where this inspiration came from, or where, that grain is that they decided to try, something different than what is traditional, that adds value to me, to the drinking experience, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of fun what craft brewers are doing now. I mean, I love a good brown ale, and hardly anybody makes one anymore. But it's still a lot of fun to see the funky, fruit being tossed in, or who knows? Somebody probably throw a kitchen sink in there at some point. I don't know.
Yeah, and it doesn't even always have to be adjuncts. It can just be that it was, the end profile taste was inspired by something that, they're evoking the flavor again and not the style. So I think Shalonda nailed it.
Yeah. Now, so we're kind of talking about funky beers. Let's talk about beer names.
You have the graphic? Or are you going to put it up?
Yeah, I do. I see. It's right here. It's up on the other screen. I got to open it up here. But when I saw that, it was so funny. I clicked on it on Twitter. I opened it up, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, I'm getting a headache. I can't look at this. You're absolutely right.
Flow.
I know.
It's a flow. You start.
I'm pulling it up here.
So here's the background on this. So I have for a really long time.
Is there a way to get a better version?
Yeah, let me get you the version that's not on the poster. Hold on.
I just love if the first step is it simply this the name of the style of beer. Yes, go for it.
Actually, just go to thebeerbabe.com. It's my first post there, and there's a graphic of it there.
I got lost trying to follow this earlier today. But
it's a flow chart, though. I mean,
no, I know. I mean, by saying I got lost, it means
what you have to do.
Come on now.
What you have to do is you have to pretend. You have to start in your mind with a beer name. You have to come to it with a name. So, like, you have to go, okay, I want to call this Bluebird Lager. Okay, so if you click on, the flowchart picture there.
I love it. By saying I got lost in it means I loved it.
Oh,
I mean, it's like
you didn't actually lose your way.
No, I didn't lose my way. I just was like enamored by it. Is a better way.
Chad, you just said Kolsch and then you were done.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So, what was the one we had last time? Was it Lake Humper?
Yeah, Lake Humper. Okay, let's do that. Is it simply the name of the style of beer?
No.
Is it named after a landmark or a historical event? No. Is it named after a generic animal like a dog, snake, eagle, etc.? And that's I'm going to say no for this one because it's not just like old
could
brown
be a
dog.
No.
It's not like old brown
Lake
dog.
Humper.
Yeah. Is it named after a person? Oh dear God, I hope not.
No.
It certainly could be.
Is it referencing published music or art? So that's no.
No.
Could it be described as
art.
funny, clever, or cheeky? So yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Who laughs at the joke? And so here's the one. Is everybody laughing at this, or all my buddies in my garage cracked up? So
Garage buddies.
I feel like that's the all my buddies in the garage.
Buddies, yeah, for sure.
And then you get to seriously, and then he goes. And then the next thing says we're funny, and then it says are women, the gay community, minorities, or another group the butt of the joke? So sort of. I mean, because assuming you're humping, I don't know, but I'll say no for that.
Well, have you seen the label of this beer?
Oh yeah, yes.
Yeah. So yes.
Yes. So yes. Okay. So that gets to the red seriously don't do it box. If you say no to that, you get the next question is it politically incorrect, racy, or edgy? And again, with this is yes, and you get the no. Try again. So what it's meant to do is like lead you through, like when you're spitballing names, just to discard some problematic crap immediately. Like just get it out of your system. Yeah, laugh about it, and then just move on. So this came about because I have heard way too many cases of things that if shown to anyone other than like the two guys in the garage, somebody probably would have been like,
yeah.
But nobody does that. So like there's a box on here that says like, did you run it by people that don't look and think exactly like you?
I was surprised. We talked about this quite a bit recently, and we looked up some articles of some of the names of beers out there that are starting to get some bad publicity.
Yeah.
And I mean, I could not believe that some of these went to production.
Right.
No.
Like,
right.
Yeah,
and you're just like, how? But that's it. That's the target demographic that this chart is aimed at. Is the really like? Did we like? These are not the subtle ones. These are like the wow. What? No.
I mean, Lake Humper would be subtle to some of the ones we
Don't name your beer after a nuclear test. Don't name your beer after a tribe that you don't belong to. Don't name your beer after something that, only one gender or, group of people is going to find funny. It's just like, so, oh, wow.
Is that really a beer name that?
There was. I don't know if it's still in existence, but there was.
To the internet.
Do you really want to have that in your Google history?
It's no worse than half the other stuff. Let's see. I'm afraid though what the
images are going to look like.
Images look like.
Go from the image search. Don't do it. I'm not typing this. But so this I created this in literally like a 45-minute like sprint. Because it was in my head all along. I just didn't know how to get it out until I like started doing it as a flowchart, and I just went, "Oh wow, okay, this." And I've never I've really never felt that way about anything creative. Like people who are artists, they say, "Oh yeah, I had that painting in my mind, and I just needed to get it out." And that was this that was this chart for me. Whereas I've been telling people pieces of this all along. Like, you didn't check, you didn't look at the Wikipedia article about that historical event. It's so awesome. Like, no, okay, a lot of that. And there is a box on there about like looking the history of stuff up, because we've also been taught a lot of crappy history. Like, that's not. It's that like,
oh yeah,
oh look, it's so cute, and then it's like, yeah, actually, it's like massacres and horribleness. Like, don't do that.
What was that one that named it after the island that was used for
Bikini Atoll? Yeah,
that's what it was. Yeah, I was
What
like,
was
yeah.
it?
So they're like, oh, cool, it's like a nuclear test, and it's like, yeah, did you know that?
right.
What was the name of it?
Bikini Atoll. It was where we tested nuclear
The
bombs.
Manhattan Project Brewery, which is already like,
yeah, right.
Like brewery name. Like, you really want to theme all your stuff about nuclear weapons? Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a choice, but it's not a great choice.
I mean, if everything's high ABV, I could kind of see a theme.
It's not though, and it's just like,
Of course, you would say that.
I'm just trying to help.
Yeah, no.
Be a consultant. They're like, how are you consultant? All you tell us to do is make this higher ABV.
Yeah, you would be paid as a consultant.
That's good advice. I'll
Yeah.
pay me in beer.
Now, do you think? Oh, I would hope. Even asking this question, but do you think if there were more women in breweries, some of these would be avoided?
Yeah.
You think,
Yeah.
like
If
when
there
I
were
look
women
at
in
these, I'm like, this is a
and these
brewery
things-
full of guys.
Yeah,
That's
no,
what
that's
this
what.
is.
Yeah, and not to be a jerk about it, but that's what happens. Is you get a whole bunch of people who think like you, or
Look
that
like
think
you.
it's
Yeah,
groupthink,
yeah.
right? You all think it's funny. You've got this joke, and it's like, yeah, but maybe like try to expand beyond that groupthink, because it's, what seems like an awesome idea when you're chuckling it up in your garage is not the same as like actually putting something out for sale and representing your brand and doing all that stuff. But absolutely, if there are more women in the room, they'd be like, hey,
Yeah, wait a second.
maybe not. I had to, I once got consulted on a beer name. Can I say this without saying the beer name?
Can I say
Just
it
well,
without-
we won't know until we know. So go
So
for it.
it was a play on another.
Nobody's
We'll bleep
listening.
it out. We'll
There's
bleep
only
it out.
5
Don't worry.
people.
Okay.
Fine.
The beer didn't end up getting named this. So there was the theme that they extended. So they had wet hopped a beer, and they decided to call it wet T-shirt. And I went,
Jeez.
and they hesitated, and they contacted me, and they said, "What do you think of this?" And I was like, "Can you not?" And they were like, so they named it something else, but it was like a wet hop version of some other beer that they had. So, but I
feel
apparently
like you could have
I
just
was
told
tiebreaker.
them.
Apparently, I don't know how many of the other people they asked, but I was like, I just don't want to have to write about these things and just pretend that I don't like notice.
It's kind of like just the fact that they had to reach out to you and ask, kind of answered their question.
Shalonda says,
like-
just say it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they made the right decision, so I'm not going to throw them under the bus.
Carla, has it been better or worse trending wise since I don't know,
The
2016?
naming, or what do you mean?
This is
Like the last couple
Like
of years,
how
like are we
frequently
getting
they're
better
happening?
here, or are there just some
Oh, gotcha,
stories
gotcha.
out there that have brought to light a
So-
few names, and this behavior is still rampant, and it's just
all right.
there was just a couple
Yeah.
publicity because of a really
A Twitter mob, yeah.
yeah
So,
for clickbait more or less.
okay. So here's the thing. It's really hard to tell because of a few things. First, we have social media now, so that you are not just reacting to the names that are in your neighborhood, right? Like
Right.
you could see beers from Indiana that are inappropriate and named, stuff like that. So that's increasing the number that we're seeing. I still firmly believe that this is in the way minority. Like, it is not something that every brewery does. It's not something that most breweries do. But when it does happen, it tends to be in the newer breweries, the tiny breweries, and the breweries that, for better or worse, they're started by two buddies and they don't have a lot of extra input, and they don't really know what they're doing business wise. They might be fine beer wise, but they just don't have the resources, or don't think they need the resources to run this by other people or get approval or check
to
it
be
if they're
fair,
just
I mean, those small
funny.
breweries could be compensating for their size. I mean,
Oh, yeah, it's a great point.
I mean, but they think that they have to differentiate
Joking.
themselves by being edgy or funny, and that's
no, I know.
not
I'm not
how to do
denying
it.
them.
it's really not how to do it. And then you have to keep upping the ante if you're going to do other breweries like beers like that, right? So I think we're seeing more of them now because it's become less acceptable to just ignore it. But I still don't think it's a majority of breweries that are doing that. I think they have that impulse to do it. Now they're kind of figuring out that they shouldn't, especially if they get above a certain size. But I think that there is definitely there's an audience out there that's paying attention now and is being vocal about the fact that this is not acceptable. And I think for better or worse, some people say that, I got accused. What did they call it? Oh yeah. Twit forking. Have you ever heard of this term?
What?
No,
I have not heard of this term.
There's like,
I don't know. We might have to wait till later to air this. I don't.
No.
Adam's turning red.
No, you know how Frankenstein's monster, like they gather the whole town with like pitchforks and torches, whatever, to go after the monster.
Oh, so it's like the mob mentality.
It's like gathering the pitchforks and the town people on Twitter against something. Like it's like a Twitter mob.
Well, Twitter's such a weird place these days, Like I personally love Twitter because I feel like it's so it's the fastest way to get news. Yeah. And I also feel like you get people's pure reactions and like you kind of get under the hood of who they really are. Yep.
Yeah, it's equalizing. Yeah, and when it first started, especially for beer, it meant that you had the same type of account that the head brewer of Dogfish had.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So you could literally talk to them and go, "Hey, my bottle's a little weird." And they'd be like, "Oh, sorry about that, man." There was a real equivalence to it, which was very odd for social media. Because usually they're all gated and they're through PR and that's still the case now. But the problem now is that, again, a lot of these people, they may be good at beer, but they're not good at social media management. They're not good at PR. They're not good at business. They're not good at these things where you're interacting with the public. So then it just becomes a really public forum for them to just really screw up on in big ways. So like when people call them out or say, "Hey, I don't really think that name's appropriate," they'll freak out and blow up. And then it becomes this bigger thing than it could have been. If they had either the sense to do that or the help to, kind of actually work through those issues instead of going, you people are assholes.
But I like that. I like that because then I like to see, this is just another person that is just as dysfunctional as anybody else, and there's not some genius behind the curtain. But I do see these things, not to go down a rabbit hole here on Twitter.
Here we go.
But
rabbit hole.
There's a lot of discussion today that Twitter is trying to kind of serve up to its users something that's going to stir an emotion, something that's going to be very positive to what they like to follow, or something that's going to be very negative to what they like to follow. And then again, even when people are acting like idiots, like you were saying, everybody else is so ready to start the mob. Like we're so ready to just even people that deserve it. I'm not saying they don't deserve it, but it's like we're so excited to tell somebody what a fucking idiot they are.
Yeah, I mean, but
just pile on, just dogpile.
But if you're putting products out into the world to be purchased, you are publicly putting your shit out there for comment. And
absolutely.
So a lot of people say like, "Well, you could have privately," and I'm like, "No, it's a public product. I could say, this flavor of candy tastes disgusting. It's a product that I can say, yeah, I think that label is totally crap. What's up with that?"
And misogynistic shock value. I mean, let's be honest. That's pretty lazy at this point. You're really not trying that hard.
That's the other thing, is that it's not even good marketing.
No.
We're not even talking about artsy, edge cases. We're talking about stupid stuff. Like making your blonde ale just have some girl with huge knockers on it. Why? It's so lazy.
Yeah, that hasn't been done for 70 years in beer marketing. Yeah, you really threw a new curveball there.
Yeah.
Well, gonna buy that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? It almost pisses me off as a man, and I know I'm the last person anybody needs to feel bad for, but it almost makes me mad that you think I'm so stupid that that's all you need to do for me to be like, "Oh, put it in my cart. Oh, there's boobies.
Oh,
boobies.
yeah.
Blonde boobies." I'm that dumb.
Right, and the other thing is that I hear a lot, in response to the Twitter mob and whatever, is, well, if you don't like it, then just don't buy it. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not the point. The point is that if a woman is going down a craft beer aisle and sees that half of these labels, have this sexist point of view to them, they're going to turn around and just say, well, craft beer in general isn't even for me. So it's not about.
Where's the White Claw?
Yeah. It's a turn off to the whole thing. Nobody's ever felt that walking through aisles of wine. right?
Yeah.
Like,
It's not
or
like there's a bunch
White
of pictures
Claw
of
or whatever
you
it
know,
is.
little
Right.
dicks and like, I'm not doing this. Fuck this.
Right. So, if anything,
I'm a man.
our slice of pie as craft beer is so fragile and small that we shouldn't be doing anything to take any group and make them feel like they're uncomfortable, in this market. Like, and there's no reason for it. It's not a gendered beverage. It's a freaking fermented like, there's no connection here. It's not a beauty product. It's not a, gender specific anything. It's just like, why are we even doing this?
And how short-sighted is it? I mean, all we hear is studies about how, yes, craft beer has grown its sort of percentage, its piece of pie of the market, but in general, beer is still declining. So how dumb are you if you're going to go ahead and just alienate half of the people you could be marketing to?
Right. And it's just, that's what it really boils down to, is you're being stupider than you realize, because you're pushing people away from not only your product, but the whole thing. So if that whole market is dying, that's not going to be good for you either. Even if that person doesn't live in your state, doesn't have the opportunity to buy that beer, it's going to be bad for everybody.
Right.
And that's why I speak up. I mean, frankly.
You know what I would do if I had a brewery? I would
go out of business?
Yeah. But
okay.
before I went out of business, I would come up with some obscene, misogynistic, just awful label and name. And then what I would do is I would purposely brew the worst beer I could possibly fucking make. Bottle that shit, sell it for like $10 a bottle, and just give it to all the dumbass morons.
And then call it hard seltzer.
No, like just whatever. I'm not gonna.
Shalonda, you're absolutely right. I mean, if you look at the history of beer, we talked about it actually last week too, about what the Swedish bikini team back in the day,
Oh yeah.
Well, it's
like more taste, less filling, or whatever the hell that was.
There's been a long history.
story. Yeah, I mean, sex sells. That's what they're going for.
Though. That's the thing, is there's research now that actually says that that's not even true. So,
but if a small brewery is going for more sales, they want that they want the almighty dollar, right? So, if they're going for a group of people that aren't in craft beer, they're drinking Bud Lights and Miller Lights, and Bud Light and Miller Light used that back in the day, then they're gonna go for it. I'm not saying it's right, but I think that's probably what a lot of the breweries are probably thinking about.
But the other thing too is that all of that is changing though. Like Bud and Miller aren't doing that type of branding as much anymore because it isn't as well received. And they're going, hey, we need to do more to also, again, get more people to drink beer in general. So it's a fallacy in a bunch of different ways. Like they're copying something that doesn't even exist anymore. Like,
right. It doesn't exist anymore. But historically, it's been there.
You know what I mean? Like it's not being productive anymore. In the way
I agree.
In the way that it did before. And I keep telling craft breweries too, is that you also just can't keep fighting over the same 24 to 35-year-old men. Like that is a tiny slice of who you could be going after. And if you're all fighting for the same share, that doesn't help you either. Fight for somebody else.
No, Rod makes a good point. Beer is just one of the things I've used. Women marketing has used that angle for a long time.
But there's something extra going on here, though. That's another subtext here, is that this is an intoxicating product. Okay, so you also have that element of you have someone serving you. Is always the woman that's serving you, but also that it makes you cooler, better, more desirable. It's turned into lower inhibitions, and you'll have a blonde on your arm, and all of these like really kind of creepy undertones. Also, with things like leg spreader or whatever we were talking about earlier, that it makes women more sexually available. Also,
yep.
And none of those things are good. Like it's not just that they put like the pretty model next to the sports car. It's also selling a product that does lower inhibitions and does, lead to problems. And I think that that's why there's more attention on this. Because, I would love to see, just that type of marketing stop altogether. But in beer and in craft beer in particular, craft beer was supposed to be like the antithesis of that. It's supposed to be about,
it's supposed to be better.
The story and
better than the mainstream.
Right. And it's handmade and artisan. It's more like they're like a bakery than they are, a multi-mega.
This is like culinary in beer, and yeah.
Now, Rajay wanted to know what you thought of the Brewdog Pink IPA. Campaign.
Okay, so that one was interesting because they were trying to be brash and address this issue by coming at it as a counterculture. They wanted it to be shocking, but then if you actually read the text on the thing, they were trying to kind of use that as a conversation starter. Like they knew people were going to be upset about a pink IPA, but if you read it, it was actually trying to undo that, right? I think it was not well conceived. But also BrewDog has a lot of other crap that has made that feel disingenuous too. I mean, they've done other misogynistic kind of bro dude things.
I think it's bullshit.
Yeah, but the thing is that I felt just like it was really poorly conceived, but they weren't doing that pink. They didn't pinkify it because they thought it would be attractive to women. They pinkified it to make people mad that it was pink so they could talk about this. Basically, it was trying to point out that pinkifying things is stupid, but they didn't do it well. So what they did was they got everybody mad that they made it pink, and nobody actually read to like paragraph 2. So I have to defend them a teeny bit on that kind of thing. However, I just don't think it was well done. I think you can do, but the other thing is that there's another beer that doesn't do that with women, but that does that with the Ku Klux Klan. Have you seen Yellow Belly?
Oh boy.
Nope.
So go Google Yellow Belly beer. So that is a beer that is wrapped up in a paper thing to make it look like the Ku Klux Klan.
Oh, you gotta be shit.
To be anti that. So there's a message on there about like how ridiculous and cowardly it is.
This is like your friend who's an asshole, a bully, and then it's like, oh, what? It was just a joke. You can't take a joke.
Well, the thing is, but it's supposed to get your attention, but the way that it comes across is not cool. Now, can you imagine checking out as like Meyer with that? Like, yeah, and then some Yellow Belly.
Nobody in this brewery thought
fucked up. That's fucked up.
If you just didn't have any eyes, you could kind of look like a
underneath it. Again, underneath that paper, which you would never take off in the store, right? Because it's a paper outside. Like underneath that paper is the thing about how cowardly it is to be racist and da 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 da. But like, no, like so, and they're out of Sweden.
Wow.
So that may be a gross misinterpretation of American racism, but it's still awful. So it's just one of those things that, again, I could see this in a marketing meeting going like, oh yeah, we can be all counter blah blah blah, and we'll make it shocking. No, that's why that thing exists on my chart that says, is this edgy? It's like, don't do it. Just do not touch that with a 10-foot pole.
I don't buy it. I don't buy it. I don't think that somebody's trying. We're so smart that we're gonna add some shock value with what's negative, but then it's gonna be like the more you know, rainbow. We're helping. I mean, I don't. I think they're just hiding behind that. And using
Yellow
the shock
Belly,
value.
they were trying to say that you're a coward, right? Like it's an insult to call somebody a Yellow Belly, right? So like they were again. That's what they say.
Well, Rod's agreeing with their message, and he gets it. But that's the thing is, you would have to really get it before you buy it.
But I mean, again, if you picture, this is always what I tell people is, you picture what I call the craft beer curious consumer. Okay, somebody who maybe isn't knowledgeable, going into that like scary huge aisle of craft beer now, like it's gigantic, it's intimidating as it is.
Yeah, everywhere.
And if you go in and you're seeing basically race-based imagery, which that is absolutely ridiculous, and not reading it. You know what I mean? You're walking down the aisle, you're seeing that, you're seeing women being used to market beer, you're seeing cheeky, sexist names, you're seeing, whatever it is you're seeing, that gives you an impression of the overall market, and you go, oh yeah, maybe this isn't my area. It's like when you go into a store where you just don't feel like it's being marketed to you. So as someone who's curious about craft, you might go, oh God, okay, these people all have no sense of humor, or wow, these are all horrible people. Why would I buy any beer from them?
Well, yeah, or if you're, an African American walking down the aisle and you see that.
Yeah, no, it's awful, right?
Like there. I mean, I get they have a message. I understand that, but the problem is going off of just this.
Yeah.
You have no clue what this is, and your first instinct is what the
fuck? Yeah, it's happening.
Seriously.
And you know that there's some jackasses out there who got their hands on this and purposely don't open it and parade it around to their dumbass friends.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you know that's happening.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's the type of shit it's just the shit we don't even need. Like, what is even why? Like, that's the other thing, is that why are you even bringing a fucking hate group into your beer marketing at all? Like, even if it's anti that, like, what are you doing?
That's what I'm saying. Nobody's looking.
You got to know ahead of time.
There's got to be a better. There's got to be a better way.
You're picking up for some reason if you don't know what it is.
Yeah, and obviously this is shock value, obviously, right? But
Yeah.
there's got to be a better
It's
way.
shock
value.
You know.
But I've seen this a lot of times where people think that, again, they think they need to differentiate themselves, and they think they need to do that by being shocking in some way, and that is not a good strategy for beer. I don't think it's a good strategy for marketing in general, because it's not a sustainable thing. So even if you get their attention once by doing some crazy stunt or whatever, it's just like any other marketing. You know, if you either have to ratchet it up every time, or you have to do a different thing to get people's attention. It's better to invest in telling your story as a brewer, telling, why the hell are you making beer? What is this? What's in there? What's a friggin' Belgian IPA? Like, that kind of stuff is the productive conversations to have, not why is this on a shelf. And it's just, I think what's happening is that we're getting a audience that's figuring this out for things other than beer, right? Like it's not just beer that's going through this like revolution where people actually are speaking up now. I think there was a really long time when everybody was just like, whatever, that's the way things are. And I think that we've entered just a period in our history where people are like, fuck it, we're done. I'm sorry, can I swear? I didn't.
I have already. Rod said,
this fucking idiot sitting next to you. You can fucking throw this fucking more.
Rod said he's happy, though, that because he knows what the message is, that somebody's saying it. And I absolutely I agree with that sentiment, Rod, but because the way they went about it is so poorly, especially just if you were to visibly see that.
Yeah.
I think they're being disingenuous that they really care about that. I think that they're just trying to sell product through shock value. I don't believe that they're being genuine about really giving a shit.
The only
and here's another idea for breweries. Instead of worrying so much about, shocking people with your label and your name, why don't you just make some good fucking beer?
You know what the last beer that shocked me was? The one that was consistent from batch to batch. That's shocking. Okay?
Yeah.
Like, shock me by how good it is and consistent it is, and like how much I want to drink it again. Like, shock me by that. Okay. Like that's what I want to be shocked by. I want to be shocked by the quality, the taste, and like your story. That's what I want to be shocked by.
Yeah.
And that sounds so cynical, but it's like I just want to hear that. I don't want to hear all this other bullshit.
I love when Rod rips on Founders.
Yeah, no, that's what
Rod is always all over Founders. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, Founders.
It's great.
Founders is beautiful.
I think Founders they're in big trouble. I think going forward.
Well,
I don't know how they can recover from it.
All the regionals of that size are in trouble. Everybody big went too big, too soon, too much debt, and they're all, the paying the piper now. They got on this. Smutty Nose did this up in New Hampshire. Is that they were doing really well, and they had this like crazy great growth curve, right? And they went, okay, cool. I'm just gonna do all my planning, like thinking that my growth curve is gonna stay like that. That's not a sustainable growth curve. So what they did is they got a loan and they said, hey, we have all this growth. It's, year, hand or foot all this time. Let's just invest millions of dollars in a new facility. As soon as they do that, demand petered right out. And it's like, there's a lot of overextension, and there's a lot who took advantage of overextension before there was competition. And they assumed that, that they were just going to be the big local brewery that everybody loved forever.
Right.
And that's not the way that's going. So I think all of the guys of Founders' size are in trouble, let alone putting aside, the ridiculousness of some of the things that they've done. That size brewery, if you love them, fondly go visit them, because they're not going to last long.
Well, let's talk about East Coast beer.
Yeah.
We don't get a whole lot of it here in the Midwest.
I drank
if
two
we do-
Yinglings today, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well.
Those things go down like water. I love Yingling. I just told my neighbor to get me a case of it because he can get it.
I haven't had one forever, but
I love it.
Do you like it though because it has a mythos, or do you actually like the taste of it?
Great question.
Probably a little bit of both. It's not a great beer, but
Okay.
I do like it.
So that's been my experience with it. You know, for risking the Twitter mob myself, it's a fine beer. It's okay. It's not worth like traveling 3 states to bring a case back.
Right, but I can now that I found out I can have someone bring a case to me.
Yeah.
I'll pay for a case. I'm not
No,
going
I
to
can
travel. I won't travel for it. No way. I don't travel for any beer.
But people have like that's the whole thing with the thing is that people would like.
this ties into our conversation about New Glarus, which
Yes, that's true.
when we talk about this, we risk being screamed at by everybody in the state of Wisconsin at this point. But I mean, Chad's in Wisconsin. Jake and I are just south of the Wisconsin border in Illinois,
Right.
so we can get New Glarus anytime. And we had this discussion about why or how is it that it's so popular when it's. I mean, they make good beer, but it's not like you said. I'm not driving hours and hours and hours to get this beer.
But
It
fascinates me too that
straight
they
up economics of rarity. I mean, like it was the first beer that people were told was good and couldn't have it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like it got national
right.
fame for being rare. It's the same way Heady Topper came into existence. Hurricane Irene took out that brewery and they came back and they said, we're only brewing one beer and we're only going to sell it in the like 3 stores next door. And that's how you generate, ridiculous demand for things in the beginning days of beer. Like you can't do that now because there's so many other things to choose from.
Yeah.
If you're a new brewery and you're like, we only have one beer and we're only going to release it like once a month. Nobody's going to come do that.
But what is fascinating about New Glarus is that they have been able to temper any sort of greed and stick to the model of just selling in Wisconsin.
Yeah,
and it just
on their cans and bottles, only in Wisconsin.
Only in Wisconsin.
It fascinates me that for a singular brewery of their size to completely own a state, which you don't see if you look across a map of beer sales across the United States, that they have not let their temptation start to expand.
Right. And I think part of that is just very smart, other than the kind of in-state local branding, is that also means that they didn't overextend themselves, because a lot of the ones that are relying on multi-state distro are having trouble now.
Right.
So it's awesome that they kind of stayed organic in their growth and have made the people happy that they need to make happy in the state, without, signing on these national distributors, because that's where people are getting in trouble.
Yeah, and they have said that in an article I was reading, and they were asked that question about distribution. Their main point was, we can barely keep up with the demand within Wisconsin right now.
Right.
Well, I believe that because we go to Woodman's in Wisconsin and people are just
Cases
walking out with carts
cases.
and
Every cart has a
cases of
case,
this
yeah.
shit. Like, what are you taking a bath in that?
Yeah.
Chad, what do you think would happen being a Wisconsinite up there if they started distributing outside of Wisconsin and they no longer, or they at least had to sort of come off that marketing angle a bit in the home state? Do you think that would piss off your home state fellow cheesians?
Yes, I think it would, but I think that just like Carla said, their rarity marketing is gone then at that point. So
Right.
I think their
But
sales
would people be
definitely
like, burning their, their jersey of
pouring out the bottles. And
yeah, like posting videos of burning their cases.
I guarantee you,
you sold out.
Guarantee it. It'd be all over Twitter, Instagram. People they'd be pissed.
I hope it happens now, because that'd be hilarious to see.
Right now, I just want to see
That
it.
would be great.
You broke my heart.
But what about? So we started talking about East Coast beers, and we started talking about Wisconsin beers.
I know.
Well, you brought up Yuengling, and then we tried to think of
and
what
then,
our comparable was locally.
Yeah.
But Yuengling at this point is what, 7, 8, 9 states. I mean, they have expanded their distribution.
Yeah.
And to answer your question earlier, Carla, I mean, I think that I don't know if Yuengling's good, because the only time I drink it is like when I'm on beach trips with friends and family,
Right,
and it's like
right.
hot, and there's already all this experience
And
going
you're
on.
already mostly drunk anyway.
Yeah, I've never just I'm in the sun and we're doing stuff, and like, I've never just had it like on a cold night in Illinois, sitting here just Like, I don't know. I don't know if it would be good.
Right.
I did tonight. It was. I mean, it was. But I haven't had it since April.
Can we talk about East Coast beer now, please?
We are talking about East Coast beer.
Yingling.
Yingling, yeah, but Yingling.
Yeah.
Let's talk about
I mean, we don't. That's not coastal. So.
No,
Yeah,
you're- I
right.
mean, it's.
I mean, it's east of the
Yes, it
Mississippi.
is.
Okay.
Eastern.
Eastern.
So in your beer experience, how has the beer scene changed for you on the right side of the country?
Oh my God, so much. So I'm gonna start like most recent, and then I'll go backwards. So in Maine, our biggest city is Portland. It's not the capital, but it's our biggest city. And for a while, all of the hot breweries and all of the big breweries and Allagash and everybody else, they're all centered out of Portland, plus or minus Bangor, which is another big city up there. And it was kind of like, okay, how many actual breweries can we fit in this town? Because the Portland itself is not a huge city. It's like the proper metro area has like 600,000 people, but the greater probably has like 1 million or so. And so for a while, it was like, okay, yeah, another small Portland brewery doing IPA things. What's been happening in the last couple of years is that all of these random rural towns like Lyman and stuff are getting their own breweries, and with that comes like a community center. So it's like that's the place that everybody in town goes to talk about their business or to have a meeting or to just hang out. And it's become a little bit of a kind of just a part of the community more than a producer of beer. So we don't have a lot of like statewide big breweries. We have a lot of little local communities that have like their own brewery, kind of like what it was like pre-prohibition. And that move has been really cool because it means it's kind of it's influencing economies other than just Portland's. And I'm really enjoying seeing that happen because everybody has their own little perspective, and the beer people are different from tasting room to tasting room. In Portland, like you run into the same 50 beer geeks, everywhere you go.
Is that a sustainable business model, Carla, you think? Like, can they do that for years and years and years, operate at that size and just kind of be like this communal area for, beer enthusiasts and people that just want to hang out and be happy and this, that, and the other?
I think one of the huge things that makes that possible is, I think it's now 5 years ago, we had a law change where you can now charge for samples at a tasting room. And before that, we didn't have that. You could only give away free samples after a tour or whatever it was. And now we they're almost like little baby pubs that are open during the day. Like, so you do have opportunities for revenue, at least from beer sales. We can also sell to go out of tasting rooms, growlers and cans and whatnot alike. So there is definitely a model there. And I think that model is actually economically more viable than a brewery of a similar size trying to make it with a distributor. Because, if you're relying on kegs and growlers all the time instead of kind of direct sales, that can be really tough. So it depends a little on size. I mean, there are some that are really, really tiny, and there's people that are just clearly doing it as almost a hobby. They're not, making tons of money on it. But I do think it is a viable model as long as you have, kind of the attention of the town. And I haven't really seen any of the small guys go down. What I have seen is in New England, a couple that are, those mid-sized ones, again, that overextended themselves are the ones that are petering out, not the ones that were, oh, hey, I opened, Norway Brewing Company in Norway, Maine, that has like a population of 2,000 people. But they're working out. So so it's kind of so far so good, knock on wood. I don't know. But I think there is a model to be had there. And then there are brew pubs too that are opening that are like new brew pubs that are not like the 90s, wood everywhere, bad pub food kind of thing. They're like doing a really good job of bringing like new foodie stuff into a beer space and a beer production space.
Do you get a lot of those like food trucks too that are parking at some of these places?
And that was another thing that changed a couple years ago.
That cost of like, well, I want to do this beer, but I don't really want to have a kitchen and
absolutely,
all
so we have a lot of that.
Takes. Yeah,
I think in most of our major cities that's allowed now. Definitely in Portland, definitely in Bangor, and so that's been a huge help too. Although it's kind of funny, some of the food trucks have transitioned to having brick and mortar restaurants, which I've never seen it go that direction.
Yeah, we have some.
Cool.
Yeah, we have some restaurants around here that also have food trucks.
Yeah, but this is like they started as a food truck, and now they have and it's like, that's cool. Yeah.
Just trying to see if they can make it out of a truck.
Yeah,
You can make
and
it out
they're-
of a truck.
So far, so good, as far as I know. So.
So in your area, what is the beer scene like for women? I mean, when you go out, do you see a lot of women craft beer drinkers? Are you? I know you're actively, promoting that, but what's it like in the Portland area?
I would say, especially in the Portland area, it depends on the brewery because there are some breweries that are still the hypey breweries. So like there's the hypey, IPA, stand in line for 10 hours kind of breweries. And that tends to be a little bit less skewed female just because I don't want to stand in line for that long. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I wouldn't either.
Yeah, no, we don't need it.
I just say, I'm too old. I don't stand in line for beer anymore.
No, we don't.
But in general, a lot of them also have made their tasting rooms on purpose family friendly because they're opened by people who have young families anyway. So it's not necessarily this kind of dark, kind of loud music bar kind of atmosphere. It's more of a, hey, come hang out in our beer garden kind of atmosphere. And I think a lot of them are taking that model from the European, kind of beer gardens where everybody would just hang out, kind of almost have a picnic all afternoon.
I wish more would do that.
So there are definitely, I would say because of that and because of the way that the spaces are structured, that it feels more welcoming. And there's definitely a lot of female participation. It really does depend on from brewery to brewery, though. But I mean, we have a lot of breweries that are also co-owned by women, and a couple that are solely owned by women as well. And Heather Sanborn is a state rep who is a co-owner of one of our better breweries, Rising Tide. So she's very visible also in kind of the beer industry for us. So she's a role model for a lot of people. Just kind of look up at like, oh yeah, okay, you can be a brewery owner and be female, or you can, be a brewer and female. And there's just been, it doesn't feel forced. None of it feels forced. It just feels like, oh yeah, okay, cool. We're all participating. Not to say it's a 50-50 split. I don't think it is. But I'm definitely not the only chick at a brewery anymore, which is nice.
Yeah. Do you see that in your like, I don't know how much you travel for work or personally. Okay. So when you travel, how would you compare that to what you see in the Portland area then?
That's kind of, I'm not sure if I can generalize that, but I will say that in the last, I want to say in the period of time in which I've been writing about beer, it is definitely everywhere is increased participation of women. I used to go to beer festivals and it was like 90% guys. I used to go into pubs and it was just bachelor parties. It was like, it doesn't feel like that anymore. And I think there's a lot of factors going in there, like things like having a tasting room that's open during the day and things about, having tours and interesting things to do, or, just a more diversity of styles, to kind of appeal to other palates. I think that is definitely moving in a positive direction. I don't think it's equal yet. And I think that the representation of people, like who are owners and who are, kind of major players in beer being female helps. So, a lot of organizations that have been supportive of that help also. But it's changed a lot just even in the 12 years that I've been writing about beer. I don't think we're completely there yet. And, we've talked about some of those reasons before.
Sure.
I don't think Portland is like an outlier. I don't think it's like a ton better or a ton worse than a lot of the other places that I've visited. But it's really, it kind of depends on sometimes the management and the vibe in the brewery too.
Have you walked into a place and
yeah,
you felt like a vibe, like they're kind of like assholes?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There are definitely breweries. I mean, even in Maine, that I'm like, nah, that's not my jam. Like,
you want to name them? You want to call them out? Or
call them out.
Just joking.
Fuck them.
I can't. I'm a journalist.
I'm gonna hit them up on Twitter right now. Start naming them. You motherfuckers.
How dare you make the beer babe feel uncomfortable?
Or the ones that are the stand in line for the hype release of the week are just not my style. I don't enjoy that kind of ever rotating, very similar beer to themselves, and even breweries that don't do that all the time can sometimes feel like that. So that's the kind of environment that I'm not super into. But again, I kind of go everywhere because I'm writing about everybody. But there are some that I'm definitely more comfortable. But also Maine being such a small state, when you're even remotely interested in beer, you get to know the actual people behind all these breweries too. And I still think that a majority of them are not jerks. They have a good interest at heart. And if anything, they just need to, kind of look a little bit farther, to see what other audiences they could be engaging when they're not doing it, or they're just doing, what they know, the easy thing to do.
How do we get a younger generation to proactively think about better diversifying, who they hire and who the influence are and the decision makers and people that are included at their table when they're, making beer and marketing beer and building breweries?
I mean, I think part of it is that we also need to see more examples of bigger companies doing this. We need to learn from other industries that have done this better. There are definitely examples, from other industries that have a higher diversity rate than beer that we should be looking to figure that out. But in general, I think that a lot of it is also just the visuals and the representation of what's going on. Is that, there's still just a stereotype that girls drink wine and guys drink beer. And it's like, no, like we're all going to be drinking White Claw in 5 years. You know what I mean?
No.
You're going to walk into like
that's a beer
store and it's just going to be
beer.
piles and piles of White Claw.
That's going the way of not your father's root beer.
I was about to say the show's over. We're done. Cancel the podcast. I'm not.
No, it's going to be the bearded claw.
Bearded Claw.
Oh God, can you imagine like a seltzer podcast? Like that's so icky.
I'm sure it's coming. There's probably one out there already.
It probably is.
I don't want to know.
I ran across.
I mean, if there's a time to have it, it's now. So let's do it, guys.
I did come across a Twitter handle that was completely towards seltzer. Oh, that's ridiculous.
A hard seltzer festival.
Hard seltzer festival. That can't be fun. Like,
see, I'm biased because I don't like regular seltzer either. So, like, this has no appeal to me at all.
See, I do like regular seltzer, and I can't stand the hard seltzer.
Yeah. So I'm just not participating in this trend at all, but I will joke about it.
Yeah.
But it's more like it has no appeal to me at all. But also there's also arguments to be said too, is that sometimes some of that stuff like the flavored malt beverages and the I don't know if that's true for seltzer, but like the not your father's root beer and stuff, is that they're trying to make alcohol taste not like alcohol because you want to get drunk. You just don't want to like feel like you're going to get, you know what I mean? Like it's like a stealth way to get drunk. And in beer, I've never also gone into beer going, how can I get drunk now? Like it's craft to me is more like, oh, what do I want? It's more like food to me. Like, okay, what do I want to drink right now? Because it might taste good. Right. And so it's just it's a totally different motivation because I want my beer to still be beer. I do like all those funky, fun ingredients though. So
that probably has a little bit to do with our age though, as well, because I drink a lot, but I don't drink to get drunk.
No. Right.
But I think they're the younger generation. A lot of younger people are looking for that.
Yeah.
What have I always said about this younger generation, Chad? What have I said?
I mean, but think about it. If this was around when we were in college, would people be drinking crappy beer? You know what I mean? Like if that was that easy to get, right? Would everybody be drinking like, Natty Ice, or would they be drinking that? Like,
well, in college, you get what you can afford.
I mean, I used to get the cube of like the 30-pack of Busch Light. You know what I'm talking about? Like we used to get that, and I didn't even like it, but
it did the job.
It did the job, and it was like $8 or something.
Yeah,
some shit.
Yeah, exactly.
So
the cube.
Yeah, and for but you're right. I mean, for the girls, we would get we'd make jungle juice. It'd be like Zima? I don't know. Kool-Aid and a bottle of Everclear.
The old Zima. Remember, you're too young for Zima.
Zima's back too. Have you had?
I've heard about Zima coming back. I haven't seen it on the shelf yet.
But. Well, Zima's got to be like, fuck. Why is everybody so hard? Like we were already.
I saw a meme about that. And it was some quote about like, oh, before you could walk, you have to crawl or whatever. And it was like Zima was the originator that like.
Yeah. But Zima, you had to.
You weren't ready for that at the time. I had a short story at one of the beer writers conferences. We had it in Milwaukee, actually. and they brought us to one of the Coors like cave, the lager caves or whatever, and we had like a beer pairing thing there. It was very cool. But we during that they had set out different Coors products and whatever, and Zima was not one of them, but it was behind the bar, like it was lined up as if it was like a choice, but there was no bartender, like it was managed so that there's. And I talked to the Coors rep and I was like, hey, can I have that bottle of Zima? Like, I've never, I'm too young, like, I just kind of want to know. And they're like, well, we didn't want to put it out because we thought people would make fun of it. And I'm like, no, it's fine. I just, just for scientific reasons, I would like to try it. So she got me one. And I then went around to all of the people that were my age and I made them drink a sip of it, like out of a cup, and asked them what it was. And they had no idea. And it was so fun when I showed them like what it was. They were like, nah! Like, it was fantastic. And they were all like, you don't have any Jolly Ranchers. I'm like, I didn't know this was going to be a thing. Like,
you have to have Jolly Ranchers, otherwise the Zima doesn't taste good.
Jolly Ranchers or Skittles, either one.
I don't think it's good.
When you were there, was there any Western-looking gentlemen that were like, would you like a banquet bear? Or I can't do the voice.
Banquet bear.
Western-looking gentleman.
Oh no, it's going away.
Well, no, that's what I thought too, and I pulled it up. I mean, it's Miller Coors, like a press release, but they talk about it's back.
It's
like,
back.
Zima is new again. Yeah, Z2K is what they call it.
Oh, geez. So just rebranding it. Okay, that's fine.
Pretty much. But
I think if they rebranded it as a seltzer, people would be like, "Oh, cool, yeah, that's fine."
Yeah, if you rebranded it as a seltzer, it was debuted in '94. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I was too small. I saw the ads.
I remember that in college.
I remember the ads.
Yeah.
Oh. There would be like the guy who was like stuck to the leather chair because it was so hot, and then they give him a Zemo and he like magically.
Oh wow! I just had a blast. I know what you're talking. Yeah.
Yeah, and he like magically like becomes unstuck from the.
Did that hurt your head, Jake?
Oh, there was just like a memory explosion. I'm gonna have to go lay down. Yes, I know what you're talking about.
I'm gonna have to try and find Zima and have it on the show one of these weeks.
You know what? Add it like next podcast. Let's just be drinking Zima.
Just be drinking Zima.
Be like, what? What
not say
this is
anything
what we
about
drink.
it. Like just be drinking it. People be like, what?
Yeah, don't say anything. Just drink.
Yeah. Don't say nothing. Just straight face. That's what I drink. What are you talking about?
What? Why is that weird?
Yeah, I don't understand. The thing I've always said about, I was telling Chad, the thing I always said about the youngsters is give them, they say how they don't want to drink as much now. I just say, well, give them time. Once they get jobs, family, and kids, they're going to drink all the time.
Well, millennials are killing everything though, apparently. So
yeah, Rod was there in '94, and it still sucked then. And this is one that Rod said earlier that I think we do need to test out his theory. Hard seltzer is supposedly a good mixer for liquor.
It's essentially tonic water with flavor in it, so of course it's a good mixer. It's like it is a mixer. It's just, I don't know, but it has booze in it already. I don't know. You gotta be careful of combining all that crap, but whatever.
Well, if there's anybody that's good to test that out, it'd be Jake over here.
I'll do some research.
He doesn't have a liver anyway.
Science.
Search.
He'll test anything.
Yeah, like Mikey.
Oh yeah, I've got weird stuff. The thing about beer, at least, is that like the worst thing it's not gonna make me sick. So like the worst thing that can happen, I'm like, wow, that was terrible.
Yeah.
I've tried a lot of weird beer.
Do
real
you
quickly,
drain pour it if it's bad? Do you ever bring something home and you're like, I can't do this? You just drain pour that shit.
I'm not like aggressive about it, but especially if something's got an off flavor or it's inflected, I'm just not going to drink it. I learned after the first beer writers conference that it's completely okay not to finish a sample of something. Because at the time I was just so bowled over by the fact that like they were pouring us all this amazing beer that I was like, oh, well, you can't leave half a bottle of Worldwide Stout on the table. That's ridiculous. And we got destroyed. And I was like, yeah, I don't. So I'm completely fine with leaving the partial thing at the bottom of the glass and not finishing it. I'm okay with the drain pour. It's the life of whatever. It's like, I already paid for it. It's fine. Like, my mistake, whatever.
Jake, just real quickly, Jake and I have switched over to hopping for Barrelage Boards. It's actually really good.
That's cool.
I switched over to the Wolf.
Oh, that's such a good one.
3 Sheeps.
I've got one more in the fridge, so I'm gonna go grab that in a minute. But...
So Carla, I asked this question to Rod. Was it last week he was on? Yeah.
Yes.
So in a similar fashion, if you walk into a brewery that's full of dudes with beards, do you ever feel uncomfortable? And if you do, is there a way that all the dudes would make a woman feel more comfortable coming into a brewery? I asked this to Rod as a black man.
Yeah.
And so what would you say to make you feel more
Rod
welcome?
loves the guys with beards, so that was different. But.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I don't personally find like, just a, whitewashed group of guys with beards uncomfortable, only because I'm in Maine. I mean, like, that's pretty much our population.
Well, yes.
It's a state requirement for all men to have
It's on the
beards.
state flag.
Yeah.
So, but I will say that, what makes a huge difference? It's not even the people, it's the people behind the bar, right? Like, if I can get like an acknowledgement when I walk in, like, hey, what's up? Or whatever, like, it doesn't even, if I'm being like kind of actively welcomed in by the establishment, I care less a little bit about who else is there. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like if that can be like conveyed, and they're not, and whoever's behind the bar isn't, making stupid sexist jokes with the people at the bar, those types of things. Like, you can convey the values of a place, even if it's filled with people that you might not agree with. But also I might, for the patrons, it's just like in general, just kind of, I would rather just be ignored. Like, I would rather just don't even put it out to be like, oh my God, there's a chicken here. Like, as long as
She's using big words.
As long as it's not like turn around and everybody, it's not like whatever that Blazing Saddles where everybody
Blazing Saddles. That's awesome.
Like, then I'm fine, right? Like but I will say that a good bar back, or just people who are running a tasting room, go a long way in making me feel safe or welcomed or just like happy. Like, it's not, and even if that's a tiny interaction, if I know that they're like paying attention to what's going on, and I know that they are kind of keeping an eye on what's going on, or they're not over serving people and it's not full of super, super drunk people. That's the thing that makes me super uncomfortable, is if there's tons of drunk people. Like, sorry, I got plugged in here. the drunk people is a sign of a couple things. It's a sign of there not being a lot of control from the establishment, and also that they don't care. So that it's like, okay, if they've let everybody here get that super rowdy, then that means that they're not gonna look out for me, or they're not gonna protect me if somebody starts giving me shit.
Right.
So it's more of it's like a connotation. It's like, oh, great. I mean, and I'm not to say that like a night where everybody's having a great time and whooping it up is not going to happen, and that's, it's awesome. But there's a different feeling when you walk in and everybody is trashed, and you're like, yeah.
Yeah.
So because they're supposed to be trained not to overserve people. They're supposed to be trained to watch out for safety issues. So it's kind of, as much not fun as it is to cut somebody off, it's necessary sometimes, and it's preventing something that the brewery would be liable for too, if they were fighting or whatever the hell happening. Is that a pupper?
Yeah, it's it's one of my dogs. Yeah, my wife totally agrees with you. So there you have her seal of approval.
But as far as patrons go, like, I have the coolest conversations with random strangers at bars. Like, I have no reservations, like walking up to somebody like, what are you drinking? But that may be because I'm just in the beer land, here, that, it's kind of something I'm used to doing. But also just in general, I think there's a lot that the establishment itself does to make it feel like a safe place to be.
Cool. Yeah, I'm on the same page.
I think that's true.
I love striking up conversations with strangers. That's one of my favorite things to do at
I
a bar
love
or a
it.
brewery.
I love it.
I'll talk to anybody, and Brittany she's always like, you'll talk to anybody, won't you? I'm like, yeah,
Yep.
I will.
Yep, I'll talk to them until they get creepy, and then I'm like, no.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, I do a lot of this, like, hey. But to be fair, that really doesn't happen to me that often. I mean, and that happens also because it's local people here, so like you're going to see these people again. So people try not to be jerks to each other. You know what I mean? It's like they're a little bit more conservative in their jerkery. I have more problems with
jerkery. I don't know how big is Portland. I don't know much about Portland.
It's
Maine.
like 600,000 people. It's
That's
not
about the size of Milwaukee then.
Yeah, it's not huge, but it's also not built up like Milwaukee. Like we don't have skyscrapers at all.
Okay.
Like it's just this flat. It's got a little hill on one side. It's surrounded by water. It's very cute. Nobody can afford to live there anymore.
So like everywhere,
gone crazy in the last couple. It's just it is what it is. But it is a beautiful place, and it's a seaside town. And there's different sections of it, and there's a lot of like surrounding communities. They're really kind of basically suburbing out, but they're becoming kind of having identities of their own and having breweries of their own even too. But it's really walkable. It's kind of like one of those older cities where like there's a lot of big brick buildings and there's these kind of narrow streets. It's burned down 4 times. So
4?
Really?
Wow.
4 times.
Wow, she's got you guys beating Chicago then.
Yeah, so a little fire prevention,
the
fire
first
prevention
time
training.
and
So the last time that it burned down, they rebuilt everything with brick. So a lot of all of downtown is brick.
What were they using before? Like straw? Or?
I don't. But
It was straw with lighter fluid.
So one of the stories that is worth Googling one of these days is Captain Mowat. So this was, I don't remember which war, but essentially we took some captain prisoner, and then when they let him out, he returned with his ship and firebombed the entire city. Like, screw you, Portland. And there's a hot sauce company now named after him called Captain Mowat's Hot Sauce, and it is burning Portland since 18, whatever. That's hilarious, but at the same time, like if that was a beer name, it would probably be inappropriate.
I was going to say, does that fall under an inappropriate beer name?
It doesn't, but I personally find it a little funny.
Did you flowchart this one?
No.
Yeah.
How to name your hot sauce?
No, hot sauce names are way worse.
Yeah.
They have a hot sauce. They have a hot sauce shop in Portland that has a little like, how the video stores used to have like the adult little like section in the back, like with a curtain behind it.
Yeah.
They have a hot sauce store where the like not family friendly names are behind like a black curtain. You have to like go and then you just hear people there going like it's totally weird.
Do you need that at bottle shops now?
Yeah, right. Put all the inappropriate names behind a curtain.
That's where all the blonde ales would be.
Yeah. And again, I really like the idea
IPAs.
of making a sexist label like that and just making the insides vile, like just making it the most disgusting, beer ever, and you could like donate all the proceeds for something ridiculous.
That reminds me, going back to that, Jake. Let's see if I can find it. There we go. Shalonda had. You're talking about your beer you would make, Jake.
Mm-hmm.
She said my first beer name, if I had a brewery, would be called Child Support because I've spent many days in court trying to get it.
I love it.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so funny. Not that you had to fight for child support. That's not funny, but that comment is funny.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, people keep asking me, they're like, "Oh, when are you going to open a brewery?" I'm like, "Never. I'm never opening."
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't like being wet and dirty and covered in hops and trube and.
Well, we've talked about it many times on the show. We actually did look at it at opening one. Just the economics of it is just
no one makes any money. Your margins are razor tight.
Yeah,
like
it's
you
just,
have to do it as a passion project.
I mean, I'd have to put a bikini on a girl on the label to get any attention.
Money for 5 minutes, and then they'll run out of the same bro guys to buy it.
You're producing beer to drink your own beer at cost is what you're doing.
And I can do that. I can do that in my garage.
Exactly.
So
I'm
good.
That. Yeah,
right.
We already are doing that. I think too the time commitment was just.
I'd have to quit my current job to be able to put enough time in to start, and then I wouldn't be making enough money. So.
I'm going to go grab one more beer. Is that okay?
That is totally allowed. If you want to grab it,
we recommend it.
Yeah, we recommend grabbing beer. All right, Chad, entertain the kids.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, like, talking about the amount of time that it takes. I mean, our buddy Trent running this little 6-barrel brewery up in Sturgeon Bay, he's putting so much time into it that, I mean, he still has time for his family, but, I mean, he's in it what 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning to ice or chill, do whatever he's doing, and the amount of time that it takes is significant on a 6-barrel brewery.
Yeah, he's there.
Let alone
he's there on the weekends.
Yeah.
He's going into
Every
that
day
little
he's got a
tiny little
responsibility.
closet brewery all the time doing stuff. So it's
Yeah, I mean, and if you want to get into a larger scale, than just selling at a restaurant like he's doing, you got to have a team.
Yeah.
In order to fulfill the time requirement.
Now that dog is the size of my dog's poop.
Yeah. She's about 15 pounds.
Cuter than your dog's poop.
That's definitely
way
cuter.
cuter. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is an adorable dog.
Yeah. She's a Pomeranian something or other. We're not sure what the mix is, but
Her Allie, what did you say her name
yeah,
was?
Allie. Yep.
Allie, yeah.
Yeah, you see,
That sounds like an AKC name, Pomeranian something or other. That's an AKC name. Yeah.
Yeah, go girl.
Oh, she's totes adorbs.
She's a cuddle bug, as you can see. She's been sleeping on the floor next to me, like, why are you not in bed?
That's where my dogs are now. They're
all sleepy.
Oh,
yeah.
I just had all 5 of my dogs bang on the door here a minute ago. What are you doing?
They're looking for dad.
What would you say? I did mention this in previous podcasts, but I like to hear what other people have to say. What can breweries do? And even those of us who don't have breweries, but we're in the craft beer culture, I guess is the best way to say it. How can we get women more into this community? How can a brewery, obviously don't put the misogynistic beer names
Right,
on the labels. I mean, that's obvious. But what can be done? What can change?
So I think this is going to sound, this is obviously just one of many things, but I think that there's something to be said about the design of some breweries. Like, there's some breweries that just have that like super industrial, really uncomfortable, you don't want to sit there for a long period of time vibe to them.
Yeah.
That like, why not throw a couch in there? Why not throw some freaking fabric or noise dampening stuff? Like, I think loudness is a factor. I think light is a factor. And just like there's some things that make spaces more safe and available. Like, I don't like breweries and bars where there's not really good line of sight, kind of like you can be kind of in a corner and nobody can see you kind of thing. Yeah. So, and it's something that like people just don't think about it. They're like, oh, it's super dark in here and really loud and nobody can see anybody, but that's fine. That's the vibe we wanted. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not really like.
Well, the shitty thing is men don't think about it because they've never had to think about it.
And frankly, I would love, one of the things I like about the tasting rooms is that I would love to have more places where I can actually carry on a conversation as opposed to yelling at the top of my lungs, like, because it's super loud or echoey or there's a live band that's like playing a million, decibels above my, above my speech level. Because, a lot of women like to get together and actually converse, social.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Instead of just standing there at the bar and just drinking and being silent. So I think that's a big deal. But in general, too, I think just generally having, spaces that are inviting, but also a diversity of what's on tap, and people who are educated enough to recommend beer to people who might not be familiar with it. So that goes with everybody who might be wanting to attract like craft curious people. Right? Is that if you can talk to people about coffee and introduce them to stouts that way, or if you can talk to people about, kind of like, they love pickles and fermented goods and okay, maybe let's talk about sours and stuff like that. If you have a wider range of what you're offering in terms of flavor, you also have more opportunities to have a conversation about bringing people in via their tastes. And that's not necessarily gender specific, but I would love to see more avenues for people to have like something they can latch on that they know. Okay, I know I like coffee. This beer reminds me of that, or this is a coffee stout or, whatever it is, you can bring more people in, kind of that way.
I think that is a very insightful perspective. I never even have framed that idea in my mind. I'm really used to that industrial type brewery. Carl, I don't know if you're seeing this out there, but one thing I have observed, and my observation skills are minimal at best.
So true.
Is that one place I have seen women congregating that is a beer-oriented type place is sometimes these really nice craft beer shops.
Yes.
That also have tables, and there's a lot of good light, and it's very open.
Yeah,
And they got some beers on draft.
Yeah.
It's a very different sort of landscape and scene than that industrial brewery at night.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, and it's opportunities like that. And there's also been a little rise of formal and informal kind of meetup groups too, where people are meeting to do things about beer that are not necessarily at a brewery, but like might be at a bowling alley, and we're all going to try a couple craft beers while we're there, or whatever it is. That it's women talking to other women and feeling comfortable about what they don't know. And places that are willing to host that type of thing or help with that type of thing is huge. And this is going to sound really dumb. And this is such a basic thing, but it's so nice. Clean bathrooms are great. I love clean bathrooms everywhere I go, because it's just, especially if you're a tasting room and you're not open at, until 1 a.m. and, it's like, it conveys how much you care about your business. If you can keep a space that's warm and inviting and safe, even when it's, just the facilities, and I went to a craft beer bar in Lewiston, and for the first time in my life, saw actual, sorry, this is probably TMI for you guys, but saw a thing of free sanitary products, like just put out in the women's room. Never ever seen it before in my life, but it was basically saying that we know.
Did you do like a double take?
Yeah, I did. And I was like, but it basically says to me, we know there are women here. We want you to be comfortable here. And I was like, are you like, I didn't need any, but it was like, this is amazing, because what it does is it just conveys that they thought about it a little bit more than 2 seconds. They went, here, go for that. Although more than that, I would actually really love there just to be single stall genderless ones, but that's another podcast.
Well, it's a simple thing.
It
really,
is
like
simple. It's super simple and super like it, but it blew my mind because I've never seen it. I've never seen somebody go, okay, this is a women's room. What does a women's room actually need in it? Here.
So do you think that establishment had a woman and or women on staff that said, "Hey, morons"?
I never asked because I know it's owned by 2 dudes. So I'm like, I'm assuming they have female barbacks, they have managers that are women, but I didn't. It wasn't like, oh, okay, it's a woman-owned facility. Obviously, they're going to do this the best they possibly can. I was not expecting it. I think is what took me aback. Is that it's like this underground, like literally underground, like you go down into a basement kind of thing, and it's a craft beer bar. And I was like, that's amazing. And then somebody like the next week went into the bathrooms and stole every poster that was there. So don't be. But it's stuff like that where it's just saying, hey, we acknowledge that you are coming to visit our space and we want you to be happy in our space. Like, it doesn't mean you have to bend over backwards and, put a huge flashing sign outside of your door that says, we want women here. But
although that might get more guys in there.
Nights are for, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
That's literally why they have ladies' nights.
Exactly. It's
Well,
no, definitely.
But can I ask? Because I've never asked this. As a woman, if you see a bar, or if you say, "Hey," if you have a group of friends that says, "Hey, let's go to this bar," it's a ladies' night. Is that a positive, or are you like, I'm gonna just hang out at home tonight?
To me, that's a negative only because that's something that the macro focused bars tend to do.
Yeah.
It's like something that a bar that my dad went to would do.
Yeah.
So it more conveys to me that that's like, oh, they're going to have cheap beer. Like it's.
Well, yeah, the women can get drunk tonight.
Craft breweries do that. Now, if a craft brewery said, hey, it's women and beer night, and we have, a couple of women brewer here, and it's $1 off if you're a woman or whatever, whatever. A craft version of that, I would probably be game. But like most of the time when it's just like that little like chalk sign on the outside of a bar that says ladies night, I'm like because it's the same stuff that we've been doing since the 70s. It's that like, oh yeah, we just want women to come in and give them, so that they can get hit on by more dudes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Well, I think ladies night was it's kind of a thing. I mean, you still see it. It's kind of a thing of the past, but it's the night where, the women come in, they get $2 drafts or whatever. And, you can get drunk cheap.
Right. But again, like just from a safety perspective, women getting drunk cheap is not really what we usually want. Because
exactly. That's what I was wondering.
I mean,
Yes.
a group of and sometimes you do. You're celebrating a friend's birthday. You all want to go out and have margaritas or whatever, and just rip roar the town. Totally fine. Like there's occasions for that, but most of the time when I'm sitting down in a bar, especially as a woman, I'm not trying to get out of control because I just don't want to put myself in a situation where I might be at risk.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of, it doesn't really appeal to me. It's just like, oh, okay, it's $1 cheaper to buy my stuff. The other thing is too that as a beer writer, I don't even look at how much anything costs anymore because every pint glass, like I just don't even. I'm like, okay, I have like maybe when I go out, max 3 beers in a sitting. If I'm at a bar. So it's like, the difference between $1 or $2, between a $9 and a $10 pint is not the same as, $1.50 for a Bud Light, because it's ladies' night. It's not the cost that's motivating me to pick the beer, I guess is what, that sounds snobby, but it's just, I don't look at it. I'm not like, what's the cheapest one on this list? I'm going, what do I actually want? Sometimes I'll go, what do I want? Oh my God, that's like $16 a glass. Never mind. But
I've been having this problem lately where I'll go to a place that's known for having a large selection of beers, and I can't decide what I want. And I'm looking. I'm like, I've had this. I haven't had that, but that's not really my favorite style.
Yeah.
And multiple times, like, especially if I'm sitting at the bar, they'll come over to me and they'll be like, they start trying to help me. Like they assume that I just don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Oh.
And it's like, no. I'm a snob. I know too much is the problem here. Like I know exactly what I'm doing. I apologize for my behavior.
But you do have a permanent, I'm totally confused look on your face.
I do. Well, I do have this going on, which isn't helping me. I don't disagree with that.
Resting confused faced? I like that.
Yeah.
It's always.
RCF, yeah.
Well, you're always sitting there going, is he confused?
Yeah,
or is
like,
he
I don't know. This
asleep?
guy's
What's
got a
wrong with
small
him?
mouth. His
Small
eyes are
mouth,
half
yeah.
closed. He looks kind of stupid.
That's funny.
Yeah, I agree with that. But yeah, I've been noticing that it's getting harder for me. I'm overanalyzing that menu so much that they just assume I don't know what the hell I'm doing, and they're ready to give me some sort of domestic beer and something, or like, hey, we have 312 on draft. Like, I'm good.
So the thing again about a good bar back or a good whatever is that sometimes when I just have that like super decision fatigue and I'm like, I don't even know, they'll say like, oh, well, we just got this. Do you want it? Do you want to sip? Do you want to try it? And they're not coming from a, you don't know what you're talking about kind of way. They're coming from a, hey, here's something you might not have considered, but I think is great. So why don't you give it a shot kind of thing? And I love it when they do that because it's like, it just helps me get out of my cloud of like, oh my God, I can't decide. I have actually a really hard time at the bottle shops. It's I'm going down aisles after aisles and I haven't had so much of this stuff and it's all local. Like I'm like, there are hundreds of beers right now at a store down the street from me that I have no experience with. I've never had, and I'm not used to feeling like that because usually, for years I was on top of it. Like if they had a new double IPA from Rising Tide, I had it. Like it's just so trying to kind of feel like I'm connected to what's going on, but also just this proliferation of SKUs is ridiculous.
Oh yeah, I always tell my wife, if I'm going to the bottle shop, I'm going to be there a while. It's like what I do, what I tell her, it's like when she goes in.
Remember, she's listening.
I know she's listening. She knows this. I've said it to her.
I have this problem too.
She goes into a store, and I tell her this all the time. She has to touch every article of clothing on every rack.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right? And I'm sitting there going, why? When I walk into a clothing store, I can look around and be like, no, I'm good, I'm out. But when I go into a bottle shop, I'm looking at everything.
Yeah.
Especially when you can buy a single of each. I mean, it's kind of like you're in a library. Like, I can't rush this.
Also, have you guys noticed that like beer labels have like no information on them anymore? Like they're all artsy, and I'm like, what style is this? I don't even know if it's an IPA. Like what?
That's one of New Glarus's problems.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
The biggest one that does that is New Glarus. You have to go on. Look at that one. I mean,
I was going to ask.
It looks nice, but
yeah, I mean, this is Dancing Gnome, and it's dry line, and it's like it says American Ale on the front of it. Okay, and then on the side, it's all it says. So it's like,
but that's way simpler than New Glarus. You got to read a fucking paragraph before you figure out what beer it is.
Or you have to go to their website. Because even in the paragraph, they don't say what the style is sometimes.
Yeah, no, this is kind of cool. So this Brewery Extrava one that I had, they have this new graphic that they've been putting on there. So there's my camera right there. So
that's cool.
Oh, that's nice.
Quick guide. Okay,
Yeah.
it's 5%. It's 69 IBU, and then they match kind of the SRM color, and then it's like, oh, and go ahead and put it in a goblet or whatever. But
Yeah, I love that.
I
love the ones that advertise the glass.
Exactly.
But you know what? Going back
we
to the
know what glass
brewery
to
that
put
we're
in
all
there.
starting, we'll have the beer where we put in the shittiest tasting beer we've ever produced in the misogynistic label, but then let's also just make a beer that's just called beer. And that's it. And we give no other details. Let's put our best beer in that.
Who makes emergency drinking beer? Because that's another one. It's like a generic can. It just says emergency drinking beer.
Oh, I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember who that is. But that's a good one. But they also put this graphic above their above the bar when you're ordering it at their tasting room. So it's kind of like, oh, okay, you can literally in a quick glance go, oh yeah, I want the dark one. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to like read. You don't have to interpret all the names. You can just be like, oh yeah, that's a porter. Okay, cool, give it to me.
Yeah, they get way too creative on their labels.
Yeah.
Wild Heaven.
All for art, like that's totally fine, but like I want to at least know what style it is and who made it. Like that's all the information that I want, like at least. And we don't get that on the front. It's always like on the back in tiny, like in literally like 7-point font. And it's
I don't like when I struggle to find the. And again, this is probably the snobbery in me. I get irritated when I can't find the date that it was canned or bottled.
Oh yeah, that too.
Yep.
That bothers me.
Now you're speaking J-Rod's.
Yeah.
There you go. Emergency drinking beer. Wild Heaven beer.
This is August 8th. So yeah.
Oh, that's nice and fresh.
Yep. So shout out to my friends from West Virginia who brought me to Dancing Gnome when I was in Pittsburgh for Fresh Fest, and it was really fun. So they gave me a 4-pack of fun stuff from West Virginia, and yeah, there it is. Yeah, that's there.
All-purpose blend. I like it.
See, that's beautiful. I love it.
That's awesome.
Just drink it, yeah. But that's a trend. But as a graphic design nerd, I also get annoyed when it's fine. All right, you're going to have art on all your labels. But like if you're literally, again, an aisle of labels, right, of cans, I at least want to know that all these belong to you, right? Like the brewery. Like, okay, these are all the Rising Tide. These are all the Banded Horn or whatever. And that's getting hard to do too because they don't always match. They're like, okay, here's the 4 that are like, modern art, and here's the 5 that have actual beer names on them. It's really difficult to navigate, and I hate to be the snob to be like, oh, art, I hate art. What's that? I just want art with information.
That's because the breweries get into like a series. It's like Revolution has their the Hero series. Most of their cans look alike, but
I do love them though.
But yeah, I mean, every brewery wants to have like a series. You got to know what series you're drinking before you pick up the can, right? So, that's all. That all goes into that label design.
Yeah. Do you guys ever think that also breweries are also hoping that you just pick it up thinking that it's new and you're not necessarily looking for them? Like we have less popular breweries that are being more enigmatic in their labels because I think they want people to be like, ooh, that's the new cool whatever, and then not realize it's from like
that's interesting marketing. I like that. I think you're probably dead on there. I think that is some new school stuff that's happening, and converse to that, I think that some people just are trying to think that I want them to recognize us. We always have a certain colored top. Yeah. We always have, like Chad's saying, I mean, if you see a Hero series, that's Revolution. But again, as we're launching our brewery, I'm very excited about. I just want one that says some IBUs, and that's it. Like, you don't know what that means. You don't know how many. There's IBUs in it. We don't know how many, but yes.
So as a graphic design nerd, I love this, which I'm going to hold up. See. Okay. You can get a 4-pack, and it's called CMYK. And
I love it.
That's awesome.
But they're all the same beer. So the 1 4-pack is that, which I think is just great.
That's hilarious. Awesome. That's really cool.
That's Good Fire Brewing near us here in Portland, and I just thought that was super creative. I actually have that like set on my shelves over there because it's like
little inspiration
and beer nerdery.
Well, I think if we were to do a brewery, Jake, the first beer would be IBUs Don't Matter. Would be the name of it.
IBUs don't matter. Is that it?
Yeah, that's
kind of become a one of our sayings here on the show.
Do you remember when like extreme beer was a thing? Like,
yeah.
Like it was like the most IBUs, the most ABV. Like I want to say it was like circa like what 2010. Like it just this arms race of insanity.
Oh
yeah. Dogfish Head did one that was like 600.
Yep.
Yeah, and I mean obviously you can't find it anymore, but yeah, that was insanity.
And I remember writing a lot back then about like, can I just have a beer that's not 12%? Like,
didn't we find that beer like?
You just lost Jake.
Yeah, Jake's like, what are you talking about? No, you have to have
something with like snake poison or something that was like 40% ABV or something.
I had the end of history that Brewdog did, and they stuffed it into squirrel or whatever that was. The stoat. Have you heard about that?
Mm-mm.
End of history. Google that image search. That's a fun one.
End of history.
The end of history beer. Yeah. They put the bottle inside.
What's going on here?
Oh boy. Hang on.
But it also was like crazy high ABV because they were fighting with some other brewery about who could make the highest ABV beer, and it tasted like moonshine with an aftertaste of beer.
Wait, when you buy it, does it come in the squirrel? Do you get the squirrel?
Yes.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Yes.
And
the one that I drank, and it was like $500 a bottle or something ridiculous. Yes.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It literally is.
Is it wrong that I want this now? I mean,
I don't think it's wrong for you,
55% ABV.
55% ABV Belgium style ale brewed with
it was gross.
juniper. So we are.
Are there more pictures? If you scroll down, I don't know if there are more.
No, just there.
No. Okay. Yeah. So we had it at the first Beer Bloggers conference actually, because they did like a little contest. Somebody bought one, and basically they did a little video contest to see who could get the most likes or something. And I did not win the contest, but I got a sip of it afterwards. And it tasted like moonshine with an aftertaste of beer. It was weird and ridiculous, but I've had that beer.
$20,000?
No, so they re-released it for people who invested in the company, but originally they had just like made a small number of them, and you could buy it for like $500 a bottle or something ridiculous. But they had them in squirrels and stoats and like all these other really random little forest animals. It was decidedly not vegan.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
But
I guess after you get loaded, you got a little snack there to grill up. So
yeah.
Oh, hang on.
Yeah, we all took pictures like of us kissing the whatever. It was gross. Regrets.
What do we have here?
Is that a little picture? There's, I think.
I was trying to find more of them. I mean, there's.
Yeah, so that one right there, that's a stoat, which is a UK animal that is like a little gopher or something.
What is wrong? That's insane. I mean, that one's interesting.
This is what I'm talking about like Brewdog's had a long history of doing stupid stuff. Like, yeah. So on the last row there, you got James and whatever the two founders on the very bottom. They're holding to the right of there.
This one?
That one, yeah. Like
that's
yes. Yeah, so they did this whole video about how like, oh no, we're done.
Oh man.
Wow.
But again, like you want to talk like that was 2010, whatever year that was. They also named a beer Sink the Bismarck, which is like a World War II thing. Like there's a lot that would not pass my chart now. I will say that.
Yeah, this article says you can get it for $760.
Yeah. I don't know how the person who got it for the conference got it, but I think they may have just paid retail or gotten a bunch of friends together to do it or whatever.
Jeez.
Wow.
But flavor-wise, not worth it. Experience-wise, fun. Yeah.
Well, Carla, we want to be respectful of your time here. We're a little bit past our hour and a half podcast, which is fine. But where can people find you?
So my website is thebeerbabe.com, and what I do there is I put links to my column articles on there. So if you're curious about what's going on in the main beer scene, and I write some original stuff over there periodically whenever I get my whenever I get a fire lit underneath me, I'll write something kind of annoying over there. But mostly if you want content that's all beer and feminism and cute pictures of my dog, that's follow me on Twitter at beerbabe. There is, I tweet a lot. So if you're one of those people who thinks that they have to go back and read every tweet that's happened in between logging onto Twitter, I'm not a good follow. But I have really productive and interesting conversations with people about beer and what's going on in beer. So I do like to do that. And I'm Carla Jean Lauter on Instagram, and I'm trying to get better at that, but it's not my I'm a words person, man. It's hard to do it all in pictures.
Deal in words.
Carla,
Carla, do you have any favorite alcoholic beverages that are not beer?
I do love whiskey. Also,
Yeah.
Nice.
So Jake, ask your question. At the
Well,
end.
He just did, didn't he?
I
no, I mean,
kind of did.
no, he didn't really frame it right.
I usually like to ask, it's been a long week, maybe it's a Friday night, maybe you didn't make it to a Friday night, but you need to reach for something, we've all had those nights, and you're not feeling a beer, what are you gonna pour out for yourself?
Green
there?
Spot, 100%. Just amazing Irish whiskey. Actually, we've been getting my husband and I have been getting into just trying a whole bunch of stuff, but Green Spot's definitely my favorite. First time I ever had it happened to be in Ireland, and I thought you could only get it over there, and then I was like, oh no.
Yeah, that's a good one.
But
Good call.
But I do like a lot of different whiskey. Just generally, it's a fun beverage because there's so much kind of variety going on there without it being overly crazy like gin, where everybody's got a different botanical blend that they want to give you. But I'm not like a huge cocktail person. So like anytime that anything happens in the cocktail or the liquor world, I'm like, I don't know anything about anything.
Have you ever taken a stout and put bourbon and whiskey in it?
No, that's an amazing idea.
Shalandra and
Afro-beer
Jay just introduced us to it. I haven't done it yet, but they've said when they have a stout that it's okay. They'll put a shot of bourbon or whiskey in there.
I'm down. I have some bourbon that would be
yeah.
It's a great idea, right?
That's a fantastic. I've never really done the whole mixing liquor and beer literally in the same glass thing. Although I did have once a IPA that was aged on gin barrels, which was amazing.
Yes, actually, I think I have one I got in Texas in my fridge. I just found it when I was cleaning my office. There's a can
I just
of
found it, of course.
I know. I just found it. I was cleaning my office and it was on the shelf. So.
Were you keeping that now? It's still on the shelf down there?
No, it's in the fridge.
Oh, you just gave it away. He's going to steal it.
He's not going to steal it.
Oh, hey, can we update the fans, Adam? Is your fridge working since the power outage? Is it alive again?
Sorry, update on the studio beer fridge. Half is working, half is not.
So we're kind of back where we started.
This is like the Frankenstein beer. It used to be. It was a wine fridge.
It's alive.
That it got zapped by lightning in a power outage, and both sides died.
Okay.
Put it in the basement for like 2 years.
Yep.
We put this little studio in my house together. I brought it upstairs, plugged it in. It worked. Then last week we got zapped again, and it went out. So I unplugged it, like whatever, just fuck this thing. And then I was like, you know what? Went plugged it in, and half of it's working. The other half is
the other half's flashing.
Back to where you started.
Yeah. So at least half's working.
That's nice.
I need to confirm which beer's in the half that's working. Put all the crap beer in the one that's not.
That's funny. Do you guys have the problem that I do where you have a whole bunch of beer and you go, oh yeah, that one's for a special occasion. Oh, I don't really want to open that yet. Like I have a whole bunch of stuff that I should really drink that I keep looking at it and I'm like, that's not what I want after work. I want that to be a thing. And now I have all of these, I have Allagash special releases. I have unintentionally curated a cellar of shit that I just think is not appropriate for everyday random drinking.
Yes.
And
My answer is no.
I'm like, I need to go to more bottle shares or something because I don't like, but I'm moving these caged and corked things around to get to the beer that I actually want to drink. And
I would just recommend. So yes, but I'm better because as soon as anybody's over that likes beer, I'm like, let's open it up.
True.
Yeah, I live not directly in Portland, but in a little suburb of it, so nobody comes to visit me.
Oh.
Yeah, and see, I just don't. I don't like people.
I think
so-
is the solution.
Yeah.
I just don't like people, so I don't invite anybody over.
And he's telling me to leave.
Well, I invite them all the time. They just don't want to come up.
And I just drink all mine.
This dog is so
Yeah.
cute. I don't know why he wants to cuddle and drink some beer.
I don't
Well,
save shit. I just drink it all.
Yeah, I have 3 Great Danes, so nobody wants to come in the house.
Oh,
Everybody's
I love Great Danes.
But yeah, Chad's the resident alcoholic, so he drinks.
I mean, I
everything.
don't have to live on it, but I do like to drink.
Yeah. I mean, like, and it's the thing is that, like, I ultimately enjoy it when I open them. It's just I have some kind of, like, mental block where I'm like, eh. And Allagash did a thing a while ago, and I don't know if they still do it, but they you know, there's National Beer Day and all that crap. They made their own holiday and hashtag that was like, drink it now. And they just said, go find stuff that's in your fridge and just go drink.
And now Founders, you know, they do that shit every year.
Yes.
And then
Oh,
share
it's
it
past
on
its age.
They're all like, you better drink your CBS now. And,
Yeah.
we're releasing
And
next
the
year's
Allagash
CBS
stuff.
in a week.
But the Allagash stuff lasts for years. So, like, you can, you know, like, I've got cool ships that are super old and that are amazing. You know, so, but they did it because they were like, we know this is a thing that people do. Drink it.
I mean, I still have stuff from last year's Three Sheep's anniversary party. So
I've still got stuff I brought back from France, like
Ooh la la.
last year. So I'm like,
Yeah.
damn it, you need to go.
just keep it.
Yeah.
Carla, do you have anything else on your mind as you want to get out there before we wrap this up?
No, but if you are interested in that chart that we shared earlier, I did make a poster version because people asked me to make a poster version. Like, I'm not making $1 million on it, but like, if you want a poster version of that, that's on. There's a link to that from my website, and it's on Redbubble. But anybody else who just wants to print out the graphic, like, feel free. Like, that's I would rather just have people use it and enjoy it than
Everybody should print out.
It'd be a revenue source for me necessarily. But if you wanted a high resolution, bigger poster, which people did apparently. You can buy that for my thing, but
Everybody should buy a poster of it and take it to their local brewery and say, "Here,
Say
get
every
it for
new
you."
brewer should
Yes,
have that
yes,
poster.
Put this up.
So-
If not in the tap room, put it in the back.
yeah. So one of the marketing managers for Rogue said that she gave it to her entire marketing staff. So I'm like, yes.
That's awesome.
Somebody asked me if they could translate it to Spanish. Somebody else asked me if they can make it into a mural, and I'm like, yes, do all the things.
Yeah, do all the things.
You know, I would love
That's
to see pictures of it printed out places and a picture of it muralized. But yeah, no, I'm totally.
Whenever we come up, whenever you see a badly named beer on Twitter, we just print it out and mail it to that brewery.
Yeah, I mean, that's
The note that says,
why I did it.
seriously.
So I didn't have to say it over and over again. I just like fail.
Yeah,
Yeah, seriously. Seriously, try again.
yeah, like Jake
Yeah,
said,
like
with
one
a
of the
note that says,
circle around
"Serious."
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
like-
really. You got
Last,
anything else, Jake?
what do you got, Jake?
He did the old point thing, like he was going to.
Yeah, he's like, he had a point here.
I was just
And
making.
he's got nothing.
I was
Right.
making, visual points.
All right. Well,
Carla, thanks for
Yeah,
joining us tonight.
body language.
It's been awesome.
Yeah,
You're
no,
amazing.
Thank you for inviting me on. This has been fun.
hang on with us for 1 second here.
We're the 3 best friends that anyone could have. We're the 3 best friends that anyone can have. And we're always gonna hang out.